So call it bias by omission, so to speak. The nation's most well-known papers, the New York Times, says truth is more important than ever. Times and Washington Post say democracy dies in darkness. Well, the Post ignored the bombshell story then of Susan Rice and unmasking of members of the Trump administration that came out over the weekend. So why aren't journalists eating this story up, even regardless of their take or what they hope will happen? Let's ask the managing editor of the Media Research Center, Brittany Hughes. Brittany, how do you explain the lack of interest, let alone the editorial where they want to dismiss it? How about the lack of interest in covering it?
Yeah, so any journalist worth their salt that was actually concentrating on doing their job, this should be a buffet of juicy information. I mean, they should be going crazy over this. Here you have a situation where a former president's national security advisor ordered the unmasking or requested the unmasking of American citizens' names who had been caught up in surveillance of foreign targets, and had no real reason for doing so. It's alleged that she did so to help in a political election year, to help a specific party. This should be something that the media is jumping on. This is a gold mine for any media that actually cares about telling the truth. But as we've seen, especially over these last few months, that's not what you have here. You have a media that's much more interested in pushing an anti-Trump narrative, an anti-Trump agenda. They did not want him to get elected in the first place. They're embarrassed that they called the election wrong, that their queen was not put on her throne. And they're concentrating on anything that makes him look bad and getting him out of office as quickly as possible. That's exactly what this comes down to.
You know, I remember one former president told me that you don't think I wanted to go out and call out all these media outlets, but I didn't. The next president called out Fox on a regular basis, meaning President Obama, almost monthly, every time he had an opportunity, especially in his last few months. And now this president also is taking on major established news outlets like the New York Times and Washington Post. And here's why. Here's an example of the headlines. Trump tries to deflect Russia's scrutiny. Really? An opinion in the headline citing crooked scheme by Obama. Instead of covering the story and come to your own conclusion, they're telling you what to expect. The Washington Post, anatomy of a fake scandal, ginned up by right-wing media and Trump. I mean, how could that actually be the case when you actually have empirical evidence that shows at the very least a need to follow up these clues?
So here's what's really shameless about the media these days. They will spend hours of wall-to-wall coverage trying desperately to dig up any shred of evidence that they can that Trump and Russia colluded to change the outcome of this election, and yet they will completely ignore proof that Susan Rice, and by extension the Obama administration, may have done the exact same thing. It's incredible. It's shameless.
Brittany Hughes, thank you so much. Interesting take.